So, welcome to Gateway of Discovery. And this is where we discover and walk into the unknown. I'm Laurie Wheeler, your host, and I am a transformational holistic practitioner and a luminary futurist, lighting the way of today and tomorrow. So, my work is in energy and where medicine meet together, and you can find me at wellnesswithin.net. So I work in the unseen realm of subtle energies and connect the dots to solve some challenges. I presently work with a quantum biologist in research science of subtle energies and electrical conductivity and the effects it has on DNA and water with quantified provings. Something else, I have an upcoming retreat to Sacred Avalon in July 8th through 16th, and super excited because there's a massive gateway open and we're waiting to see what comes through the cosmos. And then off to Egypt in October. Yeah, so some really, really great things coming up. And then also soon to be announced, I have a master class coming up, Mapping the Soul. And it's on past life, between lives, and Akashic exploration. So check it out on my website, wellnesswithin.net, and hope to see you there. So I have as my very special guest today, Deanna MaAra. I hope I say that right, Define. And she is fabulous. She is a soul guide and a passionate person about helping others and bringing about her speciality, her superpower to unlock their potential. And she has an upcoming book, which is going to be released in June, called Mastering Quantum Creation. Awaken the Phoenix Within, manifest your reality, and reclaim your cosmic power. And that will, like I said, be available on Amazon in June, and that's the week of the solstice. So a perfect week to bring about that beautiful subject. Now, she also has Quantum Ancient Codes, which are an oracle deck, and I'm going to put all that information up there in the or down in the information there. She is a galactic shaman, a quantum activator, and she helps others reclaim their multidimensional essence and awaken their innate ability to co-create with the quantum field. I love that. I love that. We all want to know how to co-create. So we're going to find out all about this. She weaves together galactic channeling, shamanism, special kind of shamanism, ancient metaphysical practices, sound healing, and source light language to create transformative experiences and tools. She is, like I said, the author of her new book, and she also is the host of Soul Communication Podcast. It's on Podmatch, and that's where she takes a deep dive into the realms of higher consciousness, sacred remembrance, and multi-dimensional healing. Whew, a mouthful. She is a superwoman. And I don't mind saying so. She's just a very sweet soul and here to bring about great things. So, welcome, Deanna. It is such a pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm so honored to be on your show. It is a pleasure to be here as well. And I always love connecting with kindred spirit. And when you and I met at New Life Expo, I think we had that instant recognition as well as with my husband. So I'm excited to dive into different rabbit holes with you.
We're going to go deep into the rabbit hole
Yeah,
there.
wherever you want to take me.
So I'm going to begin by asking you what happened that created your shift to begin your journey, and was it welcomed at the time that it happened?
I think it was a gradual process. It really started for me in my early 20s when I actually came to visit Israel. I lived in Israel during my childhood, then I ended up leaving due to various difficult pieces of life. It was like some boss bombing in my town and different things that were happening that kind of propelled me to leave. And so my parents were still there. I came back, and my mom at the time got into Reiki and Kabbalah, and she was adamant about introducing me to her Reiki teacher. So I had my first initiation in Tiberias at the Galilee Sea, which is at the time I didn't know there was all this correlation to Jesus so deeply with that and initiation. But it was my initiation where after receiving that attunement, and my youngest sister was right next to me. When we opened our eyes, I could feel currents of energy running through my body. And that's when I became aware of energy. I became in tune with that we are all energy, that we're not separate from it. And I think from that point on, my eyes opened wide and I felt that I just in the beginning of this curiosity journey. And this curiosity took me to so many places, from exploring shamanism to exploring, different worlds of shamanism and yoga, qigong, different toolkits that I was gathering along my path. So it's been over 25 years at this point. And they all culminate, and I feel right now in what is present today, which is me just synthesizing all this information into what we create and weaving into this new tapestry, new earth tapestry of many people awakening, especially in the last 4 years, and their gifts coming online. So I'm always excited to be that facilitator for others and container for others to trust their gifts, because we are all very special, unique beings, and we're here for a reason. We definitely didn't just incarnate first time on Earth. We've been here, many of us, as I call the OGs. We've been here since the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, ushering these codes through different incarnations. And now, as high priests and priestesses, we're re-remembering, re-remembering who we are, re-remembering our roles, re-remembering the codes we carry, the type of grid work that we have to do to reactivate a lot of this ancient past. But it's not so much ancient, it's multidimensional in many ways as well. So it's a beautiful time to be so alive today to what is present and how younger generation is also coming in and supporting this process. So much we can talk about, but yeah, that's kind of where I've been and where I've journeyed, and we can talk about galactic stuff that opened up more in the last 8 years, and now my multidimensional channel, I channel different languages, and yeah, I love playing with sound now, and I never before knew how much I love sound, and now I'm also a sound healer, and so all of that is part of this un unweaving process in some ways, like coming to the core of who we are. And we have frequency, we have vibration, we have sound, and we are beautiful quantum beings of light.
Yeah, it's really just coming into a more of a fuller who we are and recognizing that we have all these different aspects, like you talking about sound. I remember when I lived in Hawaii, I bought an ukulele. Not that I'm going to become this great ukulele player, but I just wanted to pick the strings for the sounds, because those sounds, they vibrate, So I love that you're talking about, playing with sound, because it's really, I think people who compose and create and songwriters, and it's just sound, and for me, I'm in light as well, and you as well, and you speak different languages and such. I what an experience back at the Galilee uh, area. That is not an everyday happening for anyone, right? And what an initiation, I'll say, and an attunement. How very special for you that you and it almost, as soon as you said it, it almost felt like there was a parallel time that you had been in that had occurred. And I get goosebumps as I say it. So it's interesting, reestablishing that, right? But let's talk about shamanism, because I
Mhm.
think, there's this what I consider, we're out there knowing what's going on. I've been in shamanism a long, long time. But there's this concept of galactic shamanism. So I'm going to just, I want you to, if you would, just explain a little bit about what that is. But I want to just say when I got involved with shamanism, it had more to do with indigenous and tribal societies in an ancient spiritual practice, and that involved shamans who act as intermediaries, with the human world and the spirit world. And they work in the void, and they work with various techniques to uh, communicate with spirits, and they heal the sick, and they go to the underworld and guide the souls and such. But can you explain more about galactic shamanism? Because that's a different topic.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And I, boldly started calling myself Galactic Shaman in the last 5 years. And I think I can because I did start on a shamanic path. I wasn't an indigenous in this lifetime, but I have been in my other lifetimes. And I remember being a Mayan shaman, and Native American shaman. So that is something that is rooted in my soul, and it is working with the land, it is working with Gaia and the rituals. And I've done many plant medicine ceremonies, so I've gone through the journey with ayahuasca, which is a familiar plant medicine, and I've uh, cooked her in the jungles of Peru, and done a lot of beautiful ceremonies with indigenous tribes down there. And at the same token, I kind of also learned a lot of modern shamanism where you yourself not relying on the shaman to conduct the ceremony for you, but you are the shaman that actually learning how to go into these states of the void. And that can be as working with the power animals and different drumming techniques. And I'm actually part of a camp at Burning Man called Shaman Dome. So for many years, I've conducted different workshops as part of my camp to have these experiences and facilitate that for others. So there's different like ritualistic ways, but also modern ways that have been developed and by some beautiful shaman elders that are not specifically indigenous, but have learned these techniques from their teachers. So I've been initiated into those practices. And then what happened was it actually had to do with ayahuasca medicine. She around 2026 actually was the one that was like, oh, 2026, is that what I said? That's interesting. 2016, I want to say in the future. In 2016, I was sitting next to the shaman in one of my last ceremonies, and I realized that I was actually supporting the shaman with not physically, but energetically. There was a room of, 50 people, and the grandmother, and that's how we call her. It's like a very ancient type of energy, very rooted to Gaia, to Earth. She was like, well, daughter, you're really good in the here and now, and you love Gaia, and you've been on this mission with Earth, which is what I'm doing a lot of work with her. But it's also time for you to go galactic, and it's time for you to kind of graduate from my class, and time to, open your wings. And I didn't quite understand, honestly, at that moment what that means. And so, but all the signs were okay. This is it, and it was a beautiful experience. And then a year later, I had an experience actually with light language where we were out on a hike. And at that point, I already didn't do any plant medicine work. And we were in a beautiful place in Adirondack Mountains. And I had an experience where a friend started actually encouraging me to sing, and I really resisted at the time. My throat chakra, which is usually for many of us, especially women, the last chakra to really open up. We build these belief systems about sound or our voice, how our voice is heard in the world, can others hear a truth? So I think I thought that I was vocal enough, but I wasn't because I still held back and I didn't quite trust my voice when it came to singing or being correct in what I'm doing. And in that experience, it was very multidimensional. I saw these golden lights, I would say, these geometries, and they were like, let me in, let me in. And I allowed, and these incredible sounds came over. It was almost like me observing the experience, and they were really high pitched and low pitched. There was the harmonics. It was just incredible. And like my my Diana self just watching this whole experience was like, what is going on? Can I really do this? And that opened the whole journey of getting deeper to these sounds, connected to them, understanding them. And what I know now is light language or source language, as I call it. I have Source Language Institute, and I activate and help others to correlate to them through the journey of source language. I realized some of these languages I started speaking are galactic in nature. And at the same time, I started doing a lot of galactic or past life regressions on myself and others. And often, when you take people into their past lives, sometimes they have lives on Earth and sometimes they have lives pre-Earth. And so these memories of galactic past started coming through for me of others people's journeys, but my own as well. And between this dance of sound and light language and recollection of different memories of my past lives, galactic past lives, I started understanding, wow, we so much bigger, right, than what we know. And the shamanic aspect of it is too, not just, underworld, upper world, but it's actually galactic as well. So now I get to work with different galactic star systems that I interact with. And I am the conduit for these different sounds. And when I have my workshops and do Kundalini activation, things like that, I become a conduit for the sounds, for the codes. And it's incredible to watch others, how others get activated to it, their languages get activated, their whatever is in their field that's blocking them to be the beautiful divine light that they are, that is also starts to shed and move. And what's a shaman too? A shaman is usually one who transmutes energy. So often I'm a transmuter, so it can come out as sounds. It can come up as a burp. Actually, like I'm a transmuter of energies and conduit to for others to step into their truth. And so yeah, so it's a beautiful journey of learning. So I'm a Lyran, and I also speak Andromedan, well, also Andromedan, and but I can interact with different star systems right now, and like Arcturian, Syrian. I mean, there's really no limit to what we could tap in. We sometimes think Draco language, for instance, is another language I know pretty fluently. It came online at the same time as Lyran, and that has to do with the Lyran Wars. So there's really no limitation in what is available for us. I think limitation is of the mind, and everything is available. That's what I'm learning.
Yeah, yeah, I would completely agree with you. If you can think it, then you must be ready for it at some level. And so then it's a matter of accessing it. And how do we do that? How do you do that? Let me ask. I don't want to say. I'll let you explain.
How do I shift from
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it's just stepping out of the ego mind
Mm.
and really learning how to silence the ego or just to be friendly with it. So it's the free will versus divine will. Sometimes we think that we have to completely shut down the ego, and that's not quite true. It's more kind of co-creating with it, because ego is what gives us identity. It's what allows us to be here in this earthly dense environment. And in this level of consciousness, it has its perspective and perception of reality, which is beautiful. And then there's divine will, a higher self. And so when you merge them together and you co-create together, it's easy, because then you're like, okay, I'm doing a transmission right now for someone else. So I'm tuning my radio station to that frequency right now. And it's all about switching that frequency station from static to more focused. And I tune to that specific vibration. And then the ego is just observing and participating as needs to. But the idea is for it to, you know, allow this experience to happen. And I think many have hard time letting go of control, letting go of the ego, and that's the comfort, right? So we're so used to these, I call them sandboxes of reality. This is my sandbox, these are my tools, this is what I know, this is my 9 to 5 job, this is what is known to me, and what is known is safe. So that's very primordial way. It's like when we lived in the cave in the beginning of times, right? We knew that there is a lion running around somewhere, and we knew there's food, but one day the berries on that tree dried out, and then wow, the fear comes up, because there's a line running around, and what is unknown is unsafe. And so now I have to look for new paths. So the prefrontal cortex, because I love how you work with quantum biology, and I also love to merge and talk about science so that it's more grounded and not so esoteric about our experience. And so it does have that's the consciousness has to do with our brain and our brain development and how we operate now from prefrontal cortex. And so when I feel I tune my station, I'm here. I'm definitely opening my third eye, my pineal gland that serves as the transmitter of information, and I'm opening to receive that information, kind of upload, download, because we are also part of this organic AI, so to speak, and then receive that information and interpret it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's beautifully said, really beautifully said. I, I think I hear a lot of people thinking that they have to get rid of their, their ego. And it's not the concept. The concept is how to merge everything together, unify it all together so it works as a whole working uh, being, right? And so we have to tune in and use both, because in order to open your mouth and speak light language or speak, you have to, in some way, it has to come through the other aspects through your high self in through you, but you have to use your own ego to find the words to describe, to say. So it is a mergence of everything together, but we have to tune in. And I love the way you said, coming into the higher self. But I think there are many of us, and I'm included in this, where we're still active in the animal brain, which is back in the occipital area. That's the fight or flight. It's the animal part of the brain. It's the survival. This has a lot to do with the carbon aspect of life. Um, Value, all of that is, and that's ego driven, and you can't separate one aspect from the other. But it's working with all of it to realize that that is no longer a real truth, that that is an illusion. It's like putting that station on, like you talked, tuning into that radio station, right? So what station do you want to tune into? And so it's where your focus goes, and wherever that's going to take you, whether you be in the cosmos, quantum, wherever you are, right? So, but I think you really keyed in on the idea. It really is a trust thing. We have to own it, believe it, or at least pretend to believe it in a sort of way, moving in that direction to trust. And I say, can you make believe, right? I mean, we can all make believe something, and as children, we make believe real well, right? So, if you can just make believe, just pretend it really is, so that your brain doesn't interfere and shush it away what's coming in. So, and I know you do this I'm sure in your different therapy work as well, in your hypnosis and that when you're doing your quantum work.
Absolutely.
So
And I think you really keyed on the word trust. I think even the regression, like for someone to go deep down into, theta brainwave and have experiences, they always ask me, they're like, am I making up the pictures? Are these pictures real? Or is just my imagination? And my answer is usually imagination is real. Everything you can imagine is real. So I think dropping back into that innocence of being a child and not questioning so much from the ego perspective, right? But just trusting that the flow of information is always perfect. It's always correct. And then you see how that fits into your life. So the more the person can surrender, right? That's the other word, surrender into the experience, relax. And the deeper the surrender is, the more potent it is always any type of session, whether
yeah,
it's sound healing, Kundalini activation, attunement, regression work, that goes all across the deep surrendering into the beingness of who you are and being okay to unpeel all these layers, and all these layers are just like an onion. We unpeel and unpeel, and sometimes we cry and release in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the
Right. No, crying
emotional
is good,
blocks.
right? It is. It's release, just like laugh.
Totally. It's
Yeah, yeah.
needed to
It,
wash away the old paradigm programming, this parental programming, the societal programming, all the programs have been put on us to be again that, 2, 3 year old that just plays and enjoys and joyful about the presence of the now. Yeah.
when I hear people talk about surrendering, I often think many folks have said to me, "Oh, I'm just going to surrender. I'm just going to get rid of it or let it go away." Doesn't necessarily mean to let it go away, but to just allow it to be. Just
Correct.
allow it to be. We're always trying to put something somewhere or be something or just being and just allowing, because there's so much happening around us, in us, and outside of us, that it just allowing it to be and being in the now, in the very moment, in the very moment, in the very moment, right? Yeah. So brings me to the question of quantum creation. And you speak about it, you teach it. So would you share with us about quantum creation? First of all, what is it to co-create with the quantum field, and what is the quantum field?
Yeah, and we already surrender is a great segue because that's one of the key ingredients of quantum creation. So what is a quantum field? The quantum field is a very sexy word, I would say, to the energy that's around us. We like to throw sexy words, and quantum is my favorite one. But it's the energy, that invisible force, because we can only see so much with our spectrum of the eyes, and but everything is quantum, really. It's the particle, it's the waves, it's how our reality is functioning. So to co-create with a quantum field, you have to get yourself into a certain state of consciousness and state of emotions to manifest what you desire, you want to create together with a quantum field, right? And quantum field, we can say the source, the consciousness that's out there. And we know some people are really good at manifestation, right? And the word manifestation has its connotation. I like the word creation because we are creative beings, and we have to remember that we are constantly creating. We're just not aware of the fact that we are. But what if we are more conscious in how we create? And so there's a formula that I started observing and I kind of put together, nothing really new, but kind of the ingredients of what we want to create. So let's say I'm going to put an example. I just came from Sedona and had a beautiful retreat with beautiful beings there. And actually having a retreat with like-minded people has been one of my dreams always, in Sedona specifically, because I love Sedona and the vortexes and the energies and working with Balrock. So that was part of my co-creation with the quantum field, to have that happen. And so the first thing, that part of the creation formula, is to have the intention. Intention, it really matters because intention is what concentrates the energy. I always give the metaphor of the goddess Diana, like my name, of hunting. She's amazing archer, so she will go hunting into the woods. And they call her also the goddess of the moon. But imagine having bow and arrow, and you have that, those are your tools of creation. So you have your arrow, and you concentrate all your intention on, kind of into the arrow itself, on the tip, because sometimes we have so many intentions, and
Mhm.
it's really good to have that moment of contemplation or reflection. You do your breath work or whatever, and you sit down, and it's like, what am I creating? What is my next project? Or my next meditation, or my next reel on Instagram? What content or experience I want to have and put out in the world? And you concentrate that specific attention or intention into your arrow, and then you have to get into certain state of consciousness to, you know, release your arrow into the world. So when you go hunting, you're not you're not in chaotic state. You're very stable and grounded. You know, your feet are grounded. You try to make as less noise as possible. So I never hunted, but I'm imagining, right? And you have to be in a certain state of coherence. And when I say coherence, like just your heart and the brain, so the heart is beating a certain way and it's synchronizing with your brain. So your breath is not too shallow, it's not too fast. You just kind of, we were just talking about the state of just being, right? You're in a state of being, you're very focused on what you want, and then you release your air. So the emotional state really matters. You if you need to have a momentum and energy to what you're creating. So it's really nice to be in the state of joy and higher frequency elevation. So like tuning that radio frequency station to those states, right? Or thinking of a happy moment, let's say, and then feeling to the moment and having, you know, a smile on your face. You can fake it, like you said, Laurie. Sometimes we can fake that state or just do a beautiful, I don't know, walk in the forest or breath work. And after that, sit down and create, because if we're trying to do it from a chaotic state, most likely it's not gonna happen, or the field is not really, the field likes when it's very coherent. And then from that place we release the arrow. And so if we hunt in, so to speak, not for the animal but for that particular thing to attract back to us from the field and co-create with us this new energy, then as we release the arrow, the most important thing in all of this is also detachment from the expectation of how and when it's going to happen, and step into the surrender. So the surrendering is that glue of all of this, because the components are here. You have the intentions, you have the coherent field, and you have your emotional mastery over that moment, and you release your error, and it's all coming together through this process of surrender. And then you know, sometimes you can even set and say, I'm looking to, you know, get this job in 2 months. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be applying. You're going to still send your resumes out, but you're already stepping into this field of this is happening. Like I was like, this retreat is happening. The right people are going to show up in my life. They're going to feel like the right co-creators with me. The right thing's going to line up, and I'm going to have this experience. So I put in my ingredients into the soup of creation. I released it out. I gave it a couple of years. My duration was shorter, sometimes longer. And then I just allowed. And then I'm allowing the universe now, the quantum field, to bring it back to me, but in its own way. Because if, again, back to control, if I'm controlling of how it's gonna create itself, then I'm controlling the circumstances. And most likely, I'm also not able to see everything that needs, all the other pieces that need to happen for it to occur. And then I have to trust, but continue fueling this intention. So that means I surrendered, but not to the point like I let my arrow go. Okay, I forgot about my arrow. More like, you know, maybe on a weekly basis, having my mantras, so periodically looking through Sedona pictures or feeling how amazing it would be to meet this amazing type of group that will facilitate this experience with me. And that what happened. Like that was on my mind. I kept fueling it periodically. It was part of, you know, my invocations in the morning or my mantras, whatever little creations that I was putting on Instagram. But it was always there in the back room, so to speak, knowing that it's gonna happen. And then it did. And what's interesting, and it doesn't just happen automatically, it's more like you meet that right person, or some, I call them breadcrumbs, or these pieces start manifesting, creating, and then they lead in you to show, oh yes, this is the right person, this is gonna happen with, this is the right group, this is part of my alignment. So it always has to align with your higher self, with your truth, with who you are. Because if you're trying to create from the wrong state and you're trying to create something that is not of your highest good, and that is possible, of course, we attract that as well. But I'm talking about the highest timeline creation. I'm talking about what serves you the best, what allows you to expand as a soul, and what is your true path. That that type of creation. And and if I think about galactic beings and advanced civilizations, they create universes, they create galaxies and nebulas and planets, and we are too those type of creators. We have done that on the soul level. We've done big creations. Now maybe we're limited here, and not everything is more working as fast here because time seems so linear on Earth. But in essence, it's multidimensional, and we have to trust the divine timing as well. So that's always part of this whole the journey of creation. So yeah, that's in the easiest way. Yeah, thank you for asking.
So beautiful.
I like to bring in metaphors because otherwise it seems so esoteric. It's so big. Like what
Yeah.
are we doing?
No, no, and it's how we absorb things through picture, through information, through that, because then we can see it, it becomes more tangible to us, when we can see it, think it, hold it in us. And just to add upon, we're electromagnetic. That's why it goes out and it magnetizes to come back into us, and it imprints. So I just want to talk about, we have a huge matrix, the entire energetic matrix. Whatever we're thinking, whatever we're feeling, desiring, intuiting, whatever goes in and imprints into that field, so it's there, the good and the bad, we'll say, or the negative and the positive, so to speak, right? And it brings all, but I think there's also discernment in it, right? Because you said not all things are for our highest and best good, or what I like to call in possible in embodiment, because we could be asking for things that just ain't gonna happen in this physical body. It's not going back to 25, I gotta say. It's just not gonna go back there. Not in this timeline anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on, Laurie. Quantum biology is moving so fast. I feel we will be using.
Yeah,
We
I'm
are
not there
we're
yet,
getting
though. I'm
closer.
working on it, but I'm not there yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Never say never.
No, right. You're right. Never say never. I think we're going to make some major breakthroughs over these next years. I really do. I think we've pulled back or opened the veil up, and now, wow, we are moving really quickly. Because I know I work up on Sirius as well, and what's going on there, and how that is really connecting here. So just like yourself, we're bringing it in, we're bringing it in, and we're activating it here in this gravitational earthly situation that's going on here. So yeah. So beautifully said, beautifully said. I want to talk a little bit about, and it all sounds so wonderful how we speak about it, but there is the shadow side, there's the dark side. We're all experiencing it, whether it be from the conscious level of what's going on consciously on the earth, that you really don't even feel you're tapped into, but you are experiencing. And we have, as women, for many, many, many years, we've absorbed, like you talked earlier about. But, we have our own ancestral stuff, we have our own personal shadows. So what's your recipe for that? How do you embrace this?
Yeah, I think I call it phoenixing. So that's
I love it. I love it.
my yeah, awakening phoenix within, but the process of phoenixing, meaning we actually meant, and this is what's been studied in the mystery schools of, Atlantean, Egyptian schools. We're meant to go through these journeys of initiation. We are meant to, kind of like what we were just talking about, the layers of an onion, to go into the darkness of ourselves and you know, be in it sometimes, reflect on it. We're always learning each time from going into the shadow, and and through the process of it, also each time rebirthing ourselves into the next version of ourselves. That's the true journey here. And the shadow really has to be looked at, because if you just put in your pink glasses on and you're walking around life and you're like, everything is love and light. And I see that happening a lot in the spiritual
Yes.
community, as you know.
Yes.
That's called spiritual bypassing. Let's just call it what it is. And
Yeah,
the
it's true.
work is not being done.
Mm.
To go into the galactics, maybe your audience knows about the Lion Wars, maybe not. But specifically, Pleiadian civilization is very well known for doing that spiritual bypassing. I mean, they have now, of course, done the work, and now they are at the higher consciousness, and that's why they're guides, because they have gone through that journey themselves. But after the Lion Wars, when these beautiful planets were attacked, and I was royalty actually on Avian, and I remember a lot of what happened. Some beings that were, migrants who jumped into different starships and chose different places to go. Sirius system, one of them. Pleiades was another system. By the time they got to Pleiades, it took it even might be a generation, because it was far distances. They didn't have that much of advanced technology. They had ships, but it took a long time. They were so traumatized and so wounded. So that's where real trauma in this Milky Way galaxy has started. That's imprinted also. You're talking about imprints imprinted in our DNA, that initial big galactic war. And there were more than one, but that was the first one. And so from taken from paradise, ripped away from this beauty, kind of like in the movie Avatar, and really the movie Avatar depicted so beautifully by James Cameron,
Oh, the world.
it's completely what essentially happened. And they got the Pleiades system and they started building new civilization. But they did decide initially that we don't want to remember. We don't like this was just too traumatizing. Let's not even focus on that. Let's just build new civilization and forget it. And what happens? And so they started doing, creating, and they started doing all these beautiful things, but they have not looked into the shadow. They did not, heal what has happened, and that started like backlashing on them. And it's like stuffing that dirt under the rug, and you're hoping that it's never gonna come up, but it will eventually.
Mhm.
And so they actually do. Even no one talks about Pleiades in a bad way, but there's actually rogue groups in Pleiades system. Pleiades is a huge system that there are rogue groups that are very in the shadow. Just like in every civilization, you have the good, the bad, the everything in between, and so it is our role to integrate. We are here as aspects of the galactic drama. We have to understand we have over 25 starseed codes in our DNA alone. So it is our role more than ever to learn that there are these different aspects of ourselves, the ones that were the perpetrators, the ones that were the victims, the ones that participated in war in different different forms, and learn about the darkness, learn about the light, kind of like in Star Wars. And all of them were part of the learning of consciousness and expansion. But it is for now for us to find, or even on Earth, all the wars that have been going on and still going on. It's for us to come to this place of peace within,
Mhm.
unified
Mhm.
by um,
Mhm.
stopping to, not stopping, but integrating that inner war
Mhm.
within, what we just talked about, that war between divine will and free will. And when we come to that place of
Mhm.
acceptance fully of everything that we are, the
Mhm.
shadow self,
Mhm.
the divine angelic self, all of the selves, and come into this unified place of this is me. I am all I am, all
Mhm.
of that.
Mhm.
And embodying that into this present moment of now, it's
Mhm.
a very powerful place. That's the phoenix in. that's where the phoenix is coming stronger and more alive, because actually all that power is about integration of the shadow self. And that's what happened to me. Actually, I worked a lot of with different power animals. I was an eagle when I stepped into shamanic journey, and I was able to see the perspectives from, the flight of the eagle. And I work with that. And then I became the medicine woman working with the owl medicine. So the owl, the white
Mhm.
owl, the ones that could transverse through different realms and see different things and go into the underworld and comfortable with that. And just about 6 years ago, when the light language opened up and everything, I had that experience of stepping down from my pedestal. Oh, I'm the highest priestess. I only deal with the light, into like, oh no, I'm also a dark being. And I have just as much created as destroyed worlds. I have. And
Mhm.
that is a huge responsibility for us to take on. But when I integrated that and I embraced that and I digested that into my beingness,
Mhm.
wow, that moment of phoenixing indeed happened. And I am a phoenix now because I keep on constantly continuing the resurrection process, but I'm no longer afraid of stepping into fully into the darkness and saying, I'm a void being. I'm both. I can play the good and the light and in between, because I'm actually creator being, and creators create from the void. So the light and the dark are just dualities, polarities within this universe, just like plus and minus, hot and cold. So we have to understand all of these have their parts. And actually it's great to have perspectives from both, because I know many beings that have played the dark side for a while, like actually chose on incarnation level. It's like, I was always good, but maybe it's time for me to be a spy. Maybe it's time for me to be a pirate. They've done some bad stuff, and then they changed and they've learned. So after doing so many many client sessions, I was like, wow, that's really cool to see other people's journeys through navigating through these different levels of the frequencies, and not trying to judge it either. The judgment is a big part, where
Uh,
everyone is like, oh, you did that. No, you have to recognize, no, it's all valid. It's all perfect. It's part of the experience alone. The source doesn't care really
No,
how you learned the lesson. That's
no,
not,
no judgment, right?
no
There is,
judgment,
yeah,
no judgment.
it just is. It just is.
It just is.
When I get in these places, that we're talking about, the dark place, right? Because we all go through it. It's not like, oh wow, because you can do this and you're this and blah blah blah. You don't have that. Well, let me tell you, that is not the case. Every single human being that walks this earth is here in some shadow aspect. So when I get into that time, and I think the more I'm brought into light and higher, what I'll say, elevation within in my own vibe, the more I can see the shadow, the more I'm aware of it, the more I'm really aware of it. But I think about this, just me personally. I think about Yeshua and what Yeshua went through. And I think here's this human in divine nature, okay, with divine nature, of divine nature. And what he had to go through. Now, I'm not comparing my world, so do not hear me say that. But I think he went through an initiation. We go through initiations, okay? When he died on the cross, okay, when he was crucified, the crucifixion was about really, and you say it well, with the rebirthing, with the phoenix rising, coming out of the death, coming out of the dark. The ashes are, it's been destroyed, everything's been used up, there's no more. Now you rise up out of that and you become empowered. That's what the crucifixion was. He came into his own power. So, but he had to go through the dark, absolutely the dark, the bottom of all of it, right? And so, you know, I think it makes me want to go more to the light when I can be aware of what it is dark in the moment. And sometimes there's varying degrees of dark. You've got the real dark and you've got like lighter shades of the dark, we'll say, maybe. But when you recognize something, you get in that moment of time to choose. This is your free will saying, well, do you want to be that? Do you want to feel that? How do you want to experience that? Because for me, and this is what I hear on a continual basis, it's not that happening that's important. It's what you do with it that really matters. So, what are you going to do with it? The fact that it's there, it exists. Okay, it's there. What are you going to do with it? You get free will. What do you want to do with it? And I think that's it. The more we become of a higher vibration, the more it moves us closer, the desire to want to be and recognize the light that exists within. So,
mean, the
yeah.
best music actually been always created when people are going through breakups or some really turmoily, phoenixy moments, and so we relate, we resonate with that, especially on the human level. So they just channel it into the music. So, like, where are you channeling that? Of that all those experiences you just went through, yeah.
Yeah. So Deanna, you also talk about 5D consciousness and the new Earth being born. Let's talk about this for a few minutes, and then I might just ask you if you would lead us in a little bit of an activation. We're talking about all of this, so if you feel led to do that,
Sure, we can try.
love to have. So
Yeah, 5D consciousness. Well, for me, I've been, as I mentioned, on this journey for a while, and last decade or so, I've been really involved in earth grid work and really seeing where we're moving as a collective and what are we creating, right? What type of template are we creating
yeah.
for a future generations, for a future selves? And it's clear that this 3D consciousness, this stance polarization game of push and pull is not serving us anymore because there's not we're talking about quantum is infinite energy, right? All these free energy devices, all the things that are coming out, been surprised by coming out, I not you're not pulling from somewhere else, it just exists.
Mhm.
But in 3D, as it is today, we're running out of this energy of push and pull. You can do it only so much. And we see that in politics, we see that in all types of systems. And these systems are changing right now. We know that because they're just not serving us anymore. So for me, 5D consciousness is where we coming back to our original blueprint. This is where we were at the time of Atlantis. Earth was Tara, which is higher dimensional frequencies, where we were priests and priestesses. We were working with crystal technology, with quantum technology, all these technologies we just now we remember in and kind of bring it back online. And very supportive environment. It wasn't about pushing and pulling. It was about holding the grid and expanding the light. And that's, I think, the cycle we're going through. We're coming back to where we were. And obviously, civilizations collapse. Atlantean Lemurian civilization collapsed. And the reason they collapsed is because of the greed, of the ego, of the technical innovations that we're playing with, where they just took it too far and ego took over. And this is, I feel, in some ways, this point where we are in right now again. We're making choices, like you said, Laurie. Are we moving forward is into organic timeline where maybe we are with the technology, but we are the ones that's driving the AI. We are the ones that co-creating with it. Or are we transhumanistic and we're allowing the technology to control us? And so there's, bifurcation in some ways. So of
Mhm.
course, I'm of the lineage and the upholder of the organic timeline. And and I want all of us to wake up to the truth of who we are and be part of this consciousness evolution where we are co-creating with Gaia, with nature. She's evolving too. She's
Mhm.
also a being, and we are helping her to step back into that frequency bandwidth where she was before. Also, remember during Atlantean times, and I know you were there, we had grids. We had these very specialized crystalline grids that the Syrians put here to hold a lot of this light and consciousness. Those grids were hijacked, and due to electrical wars, these different wars that we just talked about, and we had to take them down. So we haven't had since that time a container to hold a consciousness. And now, as we move into photonic belt, as we move in through all these particles of light, as we're receiving so much solar activation, there's more light here than ever been present before. We kind of and it's cyclical and it's galactic, but we also need containers to hold that, to support each other in our conscious evolution. So what does that mean for you? Each one of us plays their roles. Like I play on a planetary level and do a lot of background stuff that not necessarily people need to understand, traveling to different sites, which I know, Laurie, you do too. Like each one of us called to specific places to activate them, to anchor this grid or reactivate this grid, ancient grid points. And that's been very involved work that I've been really doing quite a lot. And but also it can mean as simple as creating your own container in the locality you're in. So here I am in New Jersey. We don't have a lot of spiritual stuff going on here and there, not as strong.
Right, right.
So then you like, well, I want to create my own container so others can wake up to the truth of who they are. So, you commit to women's circles that you can hold in your apartment or house with your girlfriends. And then next thing you know, your girlfriend brings another friend, and that women's circle starts growing, and you are the keeper of that container of light, or a workshop you can do, or something you do together where others can come in and they feel safe to
Mhm.
express themselves, to be themselves, to remember who they really are outside of the noise of, the matrix, of the everyday minutia. And I think that's for me 5D consciousness, community building, children, not just in these nuclear families where we don't have time for them and they sit on their computers and they go into school where they're learning things that does not really support them at all. I mean, my kid just came from school and he was complaining. And unfortunately, I'm like, I can't homeschool yet, and I'm not in an environment where I have co-ops that I can just put them in. But that's what I want for this new Earth reality. I see that we in communities living together. It takes a village to grow a child, or we have educational containers, schools, or whatever we want to call them, where they are outside most of the day. They connect to nature. They're not sitting in classrooms and learning things they're never going to remember and taking
Mhm.
tests that don't make sense. All the things that are happening right now.
And we're rewriting it anyway right now because there's so much
Yeah,
that is wrong, that has been hidden, that has been obscured, that has been illusionary. So what they're getting in school, a lot of it isn't real information, you know?
it's not. And obviously, we know the history is completely distorted too. And no one is going to learn. There's a lot to go in there. But for
Yeah.
me, yeah, it's really being in those circles of light, and how each one of us can implement that in their small town or wherever they live. Some of us go to podcasts and we inspire others, but you don't have to be on big stages to make a difference. It counts in so many different ways. Some people go, volunteer and do incredible things in their communities, and I admire that as well. That's 5D consciousness. 5D consciousness is stepping outside of me into
Hmm.
we.
Oh, oh,
And right now we're at the age of the we, finally, like the Aquarian age that we just stepped into. We in the we. And so let's be in that beautiful, co-creative process with everyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so well said. You can feel it from your heart. You can feel the passion. I love what you said. The communities. We're building communities. I work with my husband. Sometimes we do some home expos. He's got this new type of house, some hobbit-looking house, and it's visionary. And in my imagery for years, I have seen these communities being built like this around food, around like-mindedness, and cropping up in all different kinds of places. And not just that, but like you say, small little groups with your girlfriends or people that you know. Let's get together and, just maybe we do a little journey. Maybe we speak light language. Maybe whatever it is, whatever it is, again, it's all going into the matrix, and it's expanding in that energy. And so that all really matters. But one thing you said, I love this. We're creating circles of light.
Mm.
That is when you can think about it and doing things like this, creating these communities. This is a circle of light. So beautifully said, Deanna. Really love that. Love that
I have
image.
to write that down.
Yes, yes,
Circle life.
yes. It's just coming through because the
It's
passion
coming
is there, you
through, yeah.
see? And
And
that's, and
and
that's,
I think I'm channeling a lot of it too sometimes. I don't really think about, but I'm always brought back to how it was. And I think for me, it's um, a lot of it is, I think, soul memory, where I do see you, Laurie, and me in these circles of light, especially run by women. We were we were the keepers of these codes. So we were holding these circles of light in different nodes of the world for others to connect to be with the land, but also remember their angelic and galactic selves and connect to the bigger, you know, tapestry of creation. And these are the mystery schools at the time. That's what we called them, because they were too also not always open, but they in some ways, but calling it mystery school, it's like assumes you are part of the secret collective. But yeah, these were also circles of light.
yeah, yes. Okay, so I just I want to talk a little bit about your book.
Mhm.
Please share with us this beautiful, beautiful book that you've created, Mastering Quantum Creation: Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. Oh my gosh, what a loaded title. It says
It
it all,
is.
like common sense. It's like, yeah, I want some of that, right?
Yeah. Well, the book is kind of synthesis of my journey and some of the learnings. And honestly, I can't put it all in one book. I like, even this book is bigger than it should be. Usually people are like, it should be under 200 pages. I'm like, well, I'm at 300 pages, but that's okay. But it's interesting because my book is has a channeled actually forward by Tony Ghazi, who channels the Antarian Collective. And we were together at the Galactic cruise this past December, and I was shown that it would be a really great way to open the book because it's a perspective, the bigger perspective from the higher consciousness of the Ontarians, who are one of the key root races, founders of the reality as well. So, if anyone knows about Ontarians, these are like the mantis beings, but not little mantis, but the really large mantis that are very in the heart and very high frequency, really beautiful channeling. And I tried I also to make my book very interactive. So there's a lot of QR codes to take you to my website and different meditations that I have complementary with the book, as well as the Oracle deck that we can talk about that kind of came later as a tool that's also complementary. But really, it's broken into three categories: remembering, and then expansion, and then mastery. So
Mm,
in the remembering chapters section, I basically talk about my journey of phoenixing, but then also I talked about the galactics, my galactic remembering, as well as different codes of different star seeds, and whether maybe one of these star seeds as well. And so I lay out from different sessions that I had with people, but also my own remembering, kind of my understanding of the galactic history, because I feel we also in this remembering phase, we remember it through the heart, not through the mind. And we remember it who we are. And why is this important? A lot of people are like, why do I need to remember my past lives? How do they matter for my life right now? And I hear them, I'm like, they don't always need to be remembered, every single one. But it does help to understand the aspects of yourself, that you are so much more than this particular experience in this beautiful temple called human body. But your soul is a software. Your soul has traveled and experienced so much through different lifetimes. And just to remember that you are someone who was maybe a liar and then went through a war and then moved to Andromeda. All these things really reactivate some memory and some DNA codes, and they expand you. They expand you from within
And
because
often they give us comfort as well when we're
they give us
remembering. When how many
comfort.
people say, I'm sure you've experienced this, where people say, "Oh, I just, it's been so difficult being here, and I'm missing my home." I know I said it for I
Yeah.
still say it sometimes. I'm missing my home, because it's not the same here because you are from another place, or you're remembering that place, and you can feel it in your heart. You feel it in every part of you. So yeah, for sure. We want to know this. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I talk about also the void and what the void is and creation kind of energy from the void. And each of every chapter, it's very multidimensional in some ways because you can either read the book sequentially or you can just open a chapter and like just dive into the chapter. It can be also a standalone thing. And at the end of each chapter, I also have an activation that you can do. So actually walk you through the activation, and there's like a little poem, there's some light language words you can read out, and each one also will be a meditation you can do on my website. So that's kind of how the book has been built. And then expansion, I talk a lot about Kundalini activation, and that's a lot of the work that I've been doing, how to understand that we have a light body, but we also have this life force called Kundalini, and how it is important right now to activate that field, to really come online with the energy of everything you are, have your toroidal field fully active. Talk a lot about sacred geometry. I have a whole chapter with different geometry frames, and from Metatron to Merkaba. I have even a Merkaba activation meditation in there, because geometry is the form. It's what holds the light. So we need to understand how to work with the sacred geometry. That's the masculine form of creation. And chapter on light language. What is light language? How to activate it? What are different forms of it? And just giving people introduction on my journey of light language, of source language, and why it's so important. And then just talking as many chapters on kind of the mastery level on the quantum field. What is a quantum field? The biology as well. I talk about mitochondria. Laurie, probably your, favorite topic as well, which is the organelle in our cells, and that really resonates with the quantum, with the energy fields, and why it's important to make sure your mitochondria is functional. So I cover all of that, and then there's few things that are important in there as well. Besides quantum creation, I talk about quantum levels of ascension, even though I don't like to think of it as a linear
Mhm.
progression. There is a progression. And so I lay out the 7 levels of this journey of enlightenment or awakening. We're not ascending somewhere, I would say more like embodying to who we are here. And as we do that, we also step into quantum leadership. And what does that mean? How we can, well, we just talked about communities, how we can become the business entrepreneurs that are operating from the divine feminine paradigm, from the heart, how we can influence communities. I think it's time for quantum leadership right now, where it's no longer coming from the greed and competition, and it's really coming from the field of the weed that we just described, right? The unified field, like for the greater good. So all these different things that I kind of, so I cover different spectrums of things that I feel is for anyone who just started their journey, but also it's for someone who has been on their journey for a while and want to take it further, because it might be a lot and dense in there. But like I said, I feel like other books already in my mind need to be written that I have not included in this one, which is on divine partnership, because I am in divine union with my husband, my twin flame, who you've met. And I feel like a whole book can be, I refer to him a lot in my book, but I feel like a whole separate book needs to be just created for that, because I think that is important too in this journey of being the beautiful lights that we are in the world. And I know you have a beautiful partnership as well. So that's, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be an awesome book to have written. I really do. So hopefully we'll see that in the near future.
it
But
will. I feel it's all new for me, writing and
yeah.
seeing and focusing your intentions into a product of creation for a long period of time and refining it. And it's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful journey of reflection and contemplation and how information can be synthesized. So I have a lot of pictures in my book because I'm very visual.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
I put a lot of pictures, yeah. So it describes these different experiences I had, whether, with the hybrid children on the ship or the Andromedans, so people have also a representation of my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people can feel into that and feel one that they're not alone, and that these experiences, what they're about, and encourage folks to have their own experiences, not to be afraid of it. So it sounds like an amazing book. I can't wait to read it myself because we can all learn. We learn from each other, and that's the beauty of it. So. That we share with each other and as we're sharing, you can see, I mean, you can see the energy moving as we're talking about it. So I love
Yeah.
that too.
And I have to say, I love the cover I just created for it because it actually has a very complex sacred geometry that I showed you on my cards as well. They have light codes in them. And that alone, I was always saying, like, if you never even open a book, which I hope you will, uh, just having that book with the cover, like that alone would start activating your field because that was the intention as well in creation of that symbol of the complexities of the geometries of the perspectives of the consciousness, and it really relates to the sacred geometry chapter because it's all through sacred geometry.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, wonderful. Deanna, you're just a wealth of wisdom, and I just really appreciate you being you and sharing yourself with us. Anything else that you might like to say at this point, or
Yeah, I'm just really honored. My book is going to come out on June 17th. And I think I was sharing with you, I have the next activation to do in Turkey. And I think I'm going to be releasing my book from there and actually go into this very magical place that's actually a womb of creation. So the cards also available right now on my Etsy, and I'll provide link to Laurie. They are beautiful companions. They are very quantum too. Has a lot of Egyptian ancient codes in them, and you can, as any Oracle deck, you can do openings, but I actually have a digital chatbot companion that comes with it. So you can do readings and actually work with it, with this companion to do different openings for your oracles. So that's an exciting, uh, yeah, product that got just launched, and I'm excited to use it tomorrow in my workshop here in New Jersey with my people.
awesome, awesome. I'd like to get a deck and bring it to Egypt with us if for the
Oh, I would
group,
love to send it to you,
and
Laurie.
share
Yeah.
that with, yeah, because I think that would be, daily what evolves for each person. I think will be fun, and I think it can come through. That's another aspect for the
Yeah,
way
there's a
that
lot of, I've never been to Egypt, but I, of course, remember a lot of Egypt,
yeah.
and
Mm.
and one day I'll make it to Egypt. And but there's a lot of, yeah, a lot of codes that come from that very special, special place.
Yeah, and so much now coming out of from Egypt. So more and more, every day there's more being revealed. That's the beauty that's happening right now. So super exciting.
And I think that's
Yeah,
part of that remembering, right? We
yeah,
we
yeah.
reclaiming what we already know. We always knew in our meditations when we travel that there are holes of a mentee. I'm sure you've done a lot of meditations, and I've always underground. I actually mentioned there's a section in my book about Saqqara. I was a
Mhm.
high priestess in Saqqara, so I have very clear memories, and I remote view all the time. In Sekhmet, I work with the energies of Sekhmet and embody and channel her. So there's a lot, it's a lot there. But these holes that they talked about that they just found through lighter technology under Giza, we've traveled them and with different beings, and I see myself in these beautiful white priestessy gowns, and it's just incredible to see finally confirmation that we're definitely not crazy. It's all real.
Oh, not
Even
crazy.
if we
I
are
love
crazy, that's okay too.
Yeah, well, crazy only in the logical term, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's just beautiful to finally I see us as humanity finally stepping into realization that we are the Galactic Federation. And
Mm,
maybe not at this moment right now. I do see disclosure happening in the next few years, possibly, like I'm gonna say, like open contact, not just
mm,
us etherically going through the ships, which we always do and have contact. And and very possibly even in our lifetime we'll see huge changes when it comes to that. And I'm really excited what's coming after, because that will open to possibility of free energy, and a whole matrix of realities we know is going to change the minute we embrace the understanding of who we really are. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree. It's an exciting time, and being here to watch it, is
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
a part of it, sharing in it,
Yeah. So
and watch
maybe
others
I,
wake up too.
yeah, so let's I know we have only maybe a few minutes. Let's not quite ready, but it's okay. I'll just bring in whatever wants to come through. Actually, I'm feeling it's that topic of stepping into our truth of being the galactic multidimensional beings that we are, and trusting that you are that. You are quantum being of light. So taking a deep breath into your heart space. Turutu straniatia watia. Moana kia tusturnoa haki akua, knowing you can speak your truth ukua ikia ukua, as you have the words ukua tia, the pure vows ukua naniatu of creation. Your song, each needs to be heard. Umbaati kia muati staraniatu shututu. It is the time now, ukuunatia, for you to step into your truth, of your wholeness. Amuati naya kumbati stirananua. Ishaputufai, and see unduta, what is possible. Niatu tutuishima, as you expand niatu tu maniatia watima into the infinite field. Ushuaya, Ushua, Ushua, Ushua. Amakina yatuaha. And bringing your attention to your womb, the physical womb, the etheric womb of creation. As in the void, Urutumashibuata, we're going to seed, we're going to pull a golden seed, Ushtumba, and start watering it. Untutia, what is it you created next? Ayawa, Ayawa. And then breathing into your belly, imagining your belly filling up with golden light. Uma, uma, uma. Ikatiano no 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 ia mia ya kopuatia monaia tia tustuania. And seeing it like a sun radiating, magnetizing. Untuati, uapai. And we're going to water our seed as it grows and grows into this beautiful tree. Untumai mahiawa. And each branch is given fruits of co-creation. Aya Satya. Each fruit is unique. Puma. Each fruit is bright and juicy and joyful. Utwa and received so well as a gift for others. Natya Chua. And you're collecting the fruits from your tree. And you're feeling how your basket is filling up. Urumai Matya Nutu Shahayata. Hatyata, as you're giving your fruits out to others. Natu Tuama, to your community, to strangers, whoever comes on your path. Umba, umba, umba. Umba hiatia ha haisha tumaya tansha. Taking a deep breath, you can put your hands on your heart, integrating these codes. Always remembering that you are master creator. You're loved, you're supported, you guided, you protected. You have all the wisdom of the universe. Thank you for being here,
Oh,
for being alive, for being with us.
so expansive. Love it. I love it. It was so creative too, because even before you started about creation, and I don't know if you can tell, but I have the tree of life on my necklace here.
Oh, no, I
Yeah,
can't see. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's a tree. Ah,
Oh, yes. It was,
you're
yeah,
talking
it was so
about
interesting. They were like, bring me to the womb. And then I've worked with the golden seed before. It's actually in my oracle deck. And then they started showing me the tree that I also have in the oracle. And they were like, oh, show the tree and the fruits. Because I've never done this. So I gotta write this down myself. I'm like, that's a nice meditation that just came up. Yes. So
Love
thank you
it.
for
I
that.
loved it. Yeah, spontaneous and but like I say, it was very expansive, you know. Before you started to talk about that, I could really see myself just creating, just creating, like allowing my mind to go into the creating aspect, rather than no or yeah, I don't know how, or just allowing the mind to expand and go into that creating space. That is a beautiful space. We don't spend enough time there, but
Creation space is a beautiful space, and yeah, and all we need to do is say yes,
yeah, say
yes
yes.
to yes to creating.
Like
Because often we're like, oh, I'm not sure, no, yes, and then yes, no, and just say yes and
yeah,
and,
just
and
say
go
yes.
for it.
Yes. Say yes and say, I am. I
I
am. We are the light. We are creation. We are what you call God, source, whatever you name. We are this. So knowing this, very important. We
am.
are the creation.
We are the infinite creators for sure. And what was interesting in my forward when the Antaran Collective or channeling and you'll read in the book, it's they didn't even like the word master either. They were like,
Mm,
from our perspective,
mhm.
you're already a master. So you don't need to master anything.
Anything.
So
Yeah.
I was like, so I asked them, like, so do I take that word out? They're like, well, no, because for human perspective,
Right.
you do need like a goal, somewhere destination
Yeah.
of reaching to. But from their perspective, we are
Yeah.
already that. So
Yeah.
stepping into the creatorship is to embrace that fact that we are already that.
Yeah. Yeah, beautifully said. Wonderful. Deanna, it has been a pleasure. I want to just mention, how can people find you? What is your website?
Yeah, so my website is dianadivine.com or spell this dianadivine.com. And yeah, all the information is there. You can also find me on Instagram where I have pretty active channel. It's also Diana or Diana M Divine. You also can find me on YouTube. That's where my Soul Communication podcast is as well. It's also the YouTube channel at Diana M. Divine, and it's also on Apple, on Spotify, and many platforms. Soul Communication is a baby, just your podcast, Laurie, and also love bringing beautiful guests. And maybe, Laurie, you can come on my show and we can talk about your work. I would love that.
I would love that as well. I just want to mention too that you have a free ebook and a meditation, and you can find that at what is written out, and I'm going to put it in the lower part of the information here. DianaDivine.com/quantum method, and it's spelled Diana. So all that information will be
Yeah.
below. You'll be able to find her uh, because they're going to want to find you. They're going to want to work with you and hear what you have to share in your beautiful wisdom. So
I would love that. I think more programs are coming in later this year. I think after I release the book, I already see some really great workshops that we'll be putting more together online because I think a lot of it needs to be synthesized into experiences like we had right now. So I feel that will continue expanding throughout the year for me.
wonderful. Well, I wish you many blessings and much light
Thank
in your
you.
in
Thank
your
you so
work.
much, Laurie. Thank you for holding the space and
My
doing
pleasure.
the amazing, beautiful work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, wonderful. Well, again, this is Gateway to Discovery, and thank you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I look forward to you in the future.